Leroy.
DJ Leroy, that is me, but you are the night watchman.
So I've been told.
So you know that we're approaching a monumental date in the annals and history of cannabis. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, is 420. So what do you know about it?
Well, 420 is the National Cannabis Holiday. And we're celebrating it here in New York, where we have legal cannabis that is actually on sale here in New York, and so that's why it's a milestone.
Yes.
Because we actually have an industry that is at its beginning, but looks like it's going to be thriving.
Well, you know what? One of the things, Night Watchman, I think that has to happen, and it does continue with that, and that is education. Mm-hmm. Especially. So we have a number of experts, including one real serious educator on the subject. So you know what? Without further delay, why don't I bring up, I would say someone who's actually taught me a number of times, anytime she's been on the show. And that, of course, is who? Queen Mixxy. Bring her out.
All right. In the house. Welcome back.
Yes. So thank you for having me. Mm-hmm. I'm
Absolutely.
so excited.
We are too, because like I said, your work has never continued. If anything, it's been ramping up even more. So we're excited to hear about some of the new initiatives you have going on, So welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Night Watchman, you know what? I'm also thinking about someone, because first you visited, then I visited, and both of us were like really impressed with really the layout. Also seeing that they were also employing people of color in significant roles. Like, wow.
Well, what's great about it is that there was a vision for the MRTA, the bill that was passed here in New York, and to actually go see it actualized is a great thing. So let's welcome Arena Hankin-Biggers, who is the proprietor owner of the Union Square Travel Agency.
All right.
Yeah.
See, Night Watchman, what are you doing here? We're gonna get you,
bro. Stop it!
Technical issues.
You see how he tried to throw me under the bus right
there? Actually, I did. Arena, welcome again.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the only problem I do have. God, I wish you were here in Harlem. You know that.
You got to work on that for the next one.
Okay. But also, and you're going to let us know when we have delivery.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
Excellent. And Night Watchman, another veteran of Soul Lounge Primetime, came on actually before there was actually the rollout. And we were talking about, but he was talking about using it for medicinal purposes, when people just think about recreation, but medicinal purposes. And that he's a former educator and administrator in New York City, and that is Brian Alejandro Scott. Bring him out. Come on.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, no. Bob, what are you doing? I bring it.
First you said bring him out, come on, right?
I got him. Don't touch anything.
Okay.
Morning.
Brian, welcome to Soul Lounge and Prime again. Oh God, help me. Okay. So we're going to settle this right now. Night Watchman, would you like to, or should I?
It doesn't matter. You're going to make it up as you go along. So.
Okay.
And last but not least.
Yes. Someone that we had been fiending over for a while since we were first at Marcus Meets Malcolm.
That was a year ago, believe it or not. Yeah.
Yes. So we talked about bringing him out for the longest, but now we finally, our dream has been realized. That on Community Board 10, amongst other things, he keeps in the forefront of all discussions related around cannabis, and that, of course, could only be the Honorable Charles Johnson.
Good morning, everybody.
And I think you also want to mention Leafspotz.
Oh yeah,
well,
wear many hats. Yeah, so many hats, man.
And also a founding member of the Harlem Cannabis Coalition. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, this is it. So you know what? As a matter of fact, let's start to kick this bad boy off. So you know what, Queen Mixxy, what have you been up to? Do tell. You gotta let us know.
Me?
We
I
heard
think
you
Charles
were,
needs to
we
be
heard you
added.
were hanging out, so don't try to don't try to front on us. We know you're out there in those cannabis streets.
All on educational purposes.
Of course.
But of course. So tell us what you've been up to.
I'm going to be a lot more in Harlem, thanks to Mr. Charles Johnson, Esquire. You know, we've been doing a lot of educational workshops, and I want to continue to work in Harlem. So you'll be seeing me more in Harlem doing educational workshops.
Excellent. And I remember in the last discussion that we had, we were talking about, let's say, the education, especially to our folk from the faith-based community or seniors. How's that going?
That's been going really well. I know there's always tension, but sometimes tension makes diamonds. So for me, it's been very interesting hearing the concerns, because in New York or anywhere, there's always different concerns and unique. New York is a unique hub. So each borough and each senior or each faith base have a different concern for themselves. So just navigating and finding out the pain points and coming to consensus is always a good thing. Like, we don't all have to agree, but we all can be in a consensus place of like being like leveled and educated about the same thing when it comes to cannabis.
Excellent. All right. So I have to ask, let's say, Arena, how's it been going in terms of the rollout of the, let me see, any unforeseen issues that have emerged since you've opened? Do tell, what's the experience been like?
I mean, it's been a tremendous experience to date. Just want to correct the record. I'm one of a number of owners of the Union Square Travel Agency. So we're really lucky to be working with the Doe Fund, who is the majority owner.
Okay.
So so folks who are listening know that when they shop at our dispensary, 51% of all profits are being redirected to the Doe Fund. And the amazing work that they do to support formerly incarcerated and formerly homeless, primarily Black and Latino men here in New York. They've served over 30,000 people over the last 30 plus years. They have an incredible record of really helping to reintegrate folks back into society. But, you know, running a dispensary in New York City at the beginning of a brand new market certainly has a number of challenges. The biggest one of which certainly is the proliferation of all of the gray market illegal smoke shops. I think there's upwards of 1,700 estimated here in New York City. And so that's been the real barrier for us. But, you know, we're confident that folks in New York will understand the distinction and realize the value of shopping at a legal dispensary, because they're able to purchase product that has been rigorously tested, that does not contain toxins and molds and other dangerous substances. And, you know, it's clearly labeled the percentage of THC, so you know exactly what you're getting. And for us, you know, our secret sauce really are our bud tenders, who you mentioned earlier, who are an incredibly diverse group of folks. And we've kind of had them go through this week-long paid training, very intensive workshops around the history of cannabis, all the various different cannabinoids impact the body, and helping to direct customers, no matter their experience with cannabis, if they're a novice or an experienced smoker, directing them to the correct product for them. And then also, of course, a huge piece of that is customer service training as well. So we really are, you know, we've done a lot of amazing work to empower our bud tenders and to help give them access to the brands. The brands come in on a regular basis to educate our budtenders about all the various different products that we have they're carrying here in our store, to give them samples so they can try them if they want to, and just be really informed and educated as they're interacting with their customers. So I think really that is our secret sauce and what we are really, I think, most proud of.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah, I can definitely say, when you were on last time, we had not had an opportunity to visit your store. But since then, both Curtis and I have made the trek to Union Square, and I can say we were very, very impressed with the customer experience. One of the things that we had talked about the last time you were on, we talked about the issue that many people bring up about, what about the children? Is this going to have a bad effect? Are kids going to be running in? And one thing is clear, that the standards for the licensed shops, and certainly you showed that standard. There are no kids coming in unchecked at Union Square Travel Agency. There's somebody at the door and they're checking IDs, and so so Junior is not sneaking in after school to get purchases from Union Square Travel Agency. And so I think that the idea that the licensed shops really do have a protocol to handle that. And then I have to say, everything you said was true. Your staff was very knowledgeable, very, very helpful, and was able to get people in and out in a timely manner, and that's what people in New York want and need. So
yeah,
very true.
Can I just add to that? Because the last time I was on the show, we talked about how some folks in Harlem were apprehensive about a dispensary opening in their community, afraid of the quote unquote riffraff that it may attract. And so y'all have both been to our dispensary in Union Square, and I have to say we have an incredible crowd of folks that come through, none of which I would describe as riffraff. It's an array of highly educated, professional people, various different economic and social classes, but all really kind, wonderful, amazing people who anyone would want in their community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? As Bob, I'll echo what he said. The staff was just on point. Very, very friendly. It was almost like I was in a McDonald's commercial, It was like just smiling, have it your way, Oh, that's BK, but whatever. It was quite nice. I enjoyed the experience so much that I will be back. Now, of course, Brian, you are down in that area, but you had not yet discovered Union Square Travel Agency. And one of the things I know the last time that you were on Soul Lounge, one of the things that we were talking about was that the medicinal aspects of cannabis, of course, certainly when I had my hip replaced recently in January, they did not have any Oxycontin north of 96th Street, none of the pharmacies, right? And I think that was a good thing, because instead what I did was actually use an edible. And it was beautiful, beautiful experience. So tell me about your background and history with cannabis, with the plant.
Actually, I had a hip replacement last year, but I was actually Oxycontin. So
you did.
But I'll say that it's for me. Sometimes it could be anxiety, so it helps with that, opposed to taking medicine. Or if I really have trouble sleeping, which oftentimes I do because I'm thinking about lyrics or those upcoming shows, or and all kinds of things all at one time. So yeah, it's helpful for that. And I must stop by because I'm actually on 12th Street, so I'm not really.
Nice,
yeah.
Right there. Okay, so potentially Arena. New customer. We'll see.
I would love to show you around, Brian.
Okay.
All right. Very good. All right. So, Charles, welcome to Soul Lounge. First time, like I said, we've been talking about you for a while. So we want to hear some of the things that Night Watchman had mentioned. Tell us about the journey and some of the things that you've been doing in that space.
I mean, let me see. I'll start off with the community aspect because I think that's probably one of the more important pieces. As you guys know, I serve as the second vice chair for Community Board 10 Central Harlem. which has been an honor. And we've really tried to make sure to be kind of like the forefront when it comes to community boards and just starting the conversations and moving the needle when it comes to it, and really trying to make sure we organize our community as far as what we want to see, and also just addressing some of those traumas as well. Like, as was mentioned earlier, we had a forum regarding the dispensary, and that we had a chance to really hear what the community's concerns were and also dispel some things. And I feel like a lot of things were conflated when it comes to the I guess the methadone clinics and Oxycontin use, and just the tie-ins or incorrect tie-ins to violence and things of that nature at dispensaries. Because as Queen Mixxy and I, we talked about this before. If you go to other jurisdictions in other states, you see that it's very secure when it comes to the dispensaries. Not it's not how the smoke shops are kind of showing it now. So I think they're kind of getting it confused with the gray market stuff. But we did a resolution last year regarding MARTA, and I think we were the first ones in Manhattan to actually address that for the community boards. And of course, you all know, and you guys participated last year. We had the first annual cannabis forum at 120th Street, and we had Tremaine Wright as this keynote speaker, had panels, but really just to kind of start introducing the conversation. And more recently, we had a faith-based conversation. I've been really trying to push that, having a three-part series, faith-based conversation, because I felt that it was important to have the faith-based community involved in the conversation, considering how Harlem's makeup is and how influential that they are in the community. So, and Esther was a part of that, or Queen Mixxy was a part of that for the first one. So I appreciate her help coming in. We also wanted to introduce the medicinal side of it too, though, because I think a lot of churchgoers aren't, aware of the medicinal program that's been in place, for I think about 7 years in New York. So really kind of exposing them to other alternatives as opposed to Oxycontin. But yeah, that was just I'm just going down the list. And then more recently we have, we're organizing the Cannabis Forum for April 29th from 11 to 3. So the focus now is going to be on the money aspect of it, because as you all know, 40% of the tax revenue is going to be going to communities impacted by the war on drugs. But I think that it's important, especially for Harlem, Brooklyn, and locations that were impacted, to organize and start identifying what programs they would like to see and start to get that pushed, through their legislators. So that's the community side. And then I'm the co-founder and CEO of Leafspotz Incorporated. It's a B2B cannabis transportations and logistics software company. So we're building out a software platform, and I'm, looking forward to sharing some things in the next few upcoming months on that piece too, though. So you guys definitely have to have me come back so I could share some good things. And then more recently, we've organized what's called the Harlem Cannabis Coalition. So it's more so to really kind of connect the community on the educational aspects, and then really kind of looking into the data numbers too, to see exactly what licenses are coming in, which applicants, the areas that they're coming from, and also what parts of the industry are reflected in Harlem. And if need be, how can we expand that more on top of the education and really focusing on the STEM piece, because something that Queen Mixxy and I have talked about too. I think the biggest important thing of this legislation and this tax revenue is that we can really focus on the generation going forward. And mobilizing them and really using this plant as an advocate for STEM subjects. And what we're now looking at is STEAM, where you add arts, to it. So that's just a few of the things that we're working on, man. The fights, it's always a continuous thing, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely.
Charles is underselling himself. He's been doing a lot of work. He has, and the in-depth conversations we've had of just trying to move it forward has been for so many months, and just watching him just like push and continue, even though it's you got all those resistance sometimes. It's just awesome.
So you're saying that he's breaking through on some level. Is that correct?
Yes, he is. I think the faith-based conversation is a huge breakthrough, because we know there's a lot of stigmas in the faith-based community, and they're really not understanding, especially the patient side, which I'm an advocate for because I'm a medical patient myself. Understanding even the patient's rights in this space as well is something that tends to not get noticed as much, and I always put that in the forefront.
Yeah. And you know what? one of the things I guess that was always a little not necessarily sure with edible consumption was dosage. And tell me this, Arena, at your particular store, dosage is spelled out. So and the bud tenders can actually walk a client through that process, correct?
Definitely. I mean, that's the scariest thing in my mind about the products that you buy at these illicit gray market shops, because they have quite a number of edible products with incredibly high percentage of THC or milligrams of THC. So, 50 milligrams of THC per serving and upwards of that. So the products that we sell have a range of 2 milligrams, 5, and no more than 10 milligrams THC. And I think the one thing that our bartenders would tell folks who are new to consuming is to find a product and it will help them find a product that has more CBD in it to help reduce the effects of kind of paranoia. So the products that have a high percentage of THC and also a high amount of CBD as well are kind of the best products for folks who are just starting off with consuming.
Okay. And let's say, Brian, in terms of your consumption, of course, everyone probably had a blunt smoking, but have you evolved in terms of edibles and tinctures or vapes?
Not vapes. I was never a blunt person.
Well, hold it. Now, Brian, I know you. You've always been blunt. You know this.
Maybe in terms of being clever, but
yes.
in terms of no, I prefer a little bit more sophisticated. So the edibles, I've done a little of that, and it does what it needs to do, and I just like being in control. So for me, I don't like to be out of it. I want to be just in a calm mood. So it works. I don't like smoking a lot because I sing, I perform, so I'm always concerned about the vocal cords, and that's for me. But other people, everyone's different, so it's nice to have a variety of products that one can use.
And let's say you're let's say doing a cabaret night or whatnot. Let's say just to take the edge off, might you do a low dosage edible to just help me through, or what?
I'm not sure. I don't think I probably wouldn't, because I would first of all be nervous about forgetting. So I maybe after,
yes,
but not before, because usually I have my adrenaline already going. I'm already, I know the music, I know the cues, I've read the room, so I just want to keep that in the forefront of everything. For me, same thing with drinking. I probably would have at most like a shot, but that's it. Because that also dries up your vocal cords.
Yes, got you. So Charles, certainly and whatnot. We're talking about the administering of this particular flower in various ways. Has that been also part of your discussion in terms of the education of our community?
Absolutely. Like I said, I think there's a misconception when it comes to it, and just like a lack of education when it comes to it in general. So we try to explore and really kind of introduce the fact of like the CBD ointments and things of that nature. Really getting them involved in that part, because again, there's this kind of archaic thought process when it comes to cannabis. There's people that in Harlem that still refer to it as reefer, so the stuff that's out here now is not what was out there in 1970 and things of that nature. So, but just we're trying to slowly but surely expose them to that. But I think that the key to doing that is to bring in the experts that are actually studying this. So we had Dr. Hurd, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Fullylove. I'm part of that faith-based conversation that could kind of bring some medical perspective to it. So it's not just someone saying that, oh no, you could use this for medicinal purposes. No, there's people that are doing research. So that's that part.
Yeah, I noticed also, Charles, that in terms of, let's say, research, because of this being a Schedule A drug,
Schedule
narcotic.
one. Schedule one.
Schedule one, yeah.
Thank you, Night Watchman.
I know you're thinking of taxes right now. So.
280E, right?
He just had to go for it. I know. So having said that, there was no research, little to no research, especially in the States, but other countries, specifically, I think Israel comes to mind. Are we now, because local municipalities have legalized it, are we now studying the drug and its positive benefits?
Well, from my understanding, it's still technically a Schedule One drug, so there is limited research available. But I do believe more recently they had passed some legislation to allow for funding for cannabis research from a federal level. But it's a very limited cap space. So I think the best way, again, I'm always an advocate for us to deschedulize the drug, because if we deschedulize it, then that opens the door for the tax aspect too. Because if you look at case law and anything with 280E or dispensaries that go to court about 280E taxes, the IRS's backfall is always that, hey, this is a part of the tax code and we're just following. I mean, it's a Schedule One drug and we're just following that schedule. So I think that once we really push that, then it kind of opens the door. But I really want to see New York kind of open first, because I think that if we can show an actual social equity program that's successful, that it could be a model for the country. Because as of right now, there's no successful social equity program. And that I mean, the 280E and everything else ties into that, from my opinion. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. And truth be told, it really shouldn't be a Schedule One drug, because if you look at some of the requirements for Schedule One drugs, it can't have.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You can't have any medical significance and things of that nature. But as you all know, there was a drug more recently approved by the FDA called Charlotte's Web that addresses epilepsy seizures, and it has THC in it.
Wow.
So yeah, and this is an FDA drug though. So the fact that, I mean, we could, if you literally go through the criteria of a Schedule One drug, you could check off why cannabis isn't, which goes to a deeper conversation about communities that were targeted using this drug.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what we're pushing.
Gotcha.
Arena, can you also talk about the impact of 280E on your operations, and how did you deal with that?
Oh my goodness. Well, we've been open for a month and a half, and I think that our team, we have an incredible team, and I'm really lucky that we have one of our founders and one of the co-owners with me is an accountant. Another gentleman, has some finance background. So it's really important to have numbers folks. I think, 280E makes it really, really difficult for small entrepreneurs to succeed in this industry. And you have to have access to lots and lots and lots of capital in order to make it work.
Wow.
So, that's certainly the tax, the 280E is not going to make it easy for social equity applicants, for social equity licensees, for people of color, for entrepreneurs to succeed.
Wow. And tell me this though. So the first dispensaries, because for some reason I mistakenly thought that your particular brand was a for-profit entity. I didn't realize that the Doe Fund is behind that.
Well. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit nuanced. I had worked for a for-profit company. We're the 49% owner of the license.
Gotcha.
The 51% owner is an LLC that was created by the Doe Fund. So the entire dispensary is for profit. It's just that 51% of the profits are redirected to the not-for-profit entity.
So it's a hybrid.
No, I was going to ask one.
So we're subject to all the taxes.
So let's say housing works. Are they 100% not for profit, or is that also a certain mix between for profit and not for profit?
I'm not exactly sure how they're structured, but they are definitely run and operated by the not for profit, and I'm not sure how that impacts the tax structure. But yeah, you have to ask them.
They gotta get their own accountants.
Exactly. It's all very messy and complicated.
Got you. Well, Queen Mixxy, I was listening to Charles talk about some of the let's say pushback and other things that have been occurring in the space. And Charles, I'll ask you at another point, but of course you were talking about the dispensary proposed for 125th Street, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. But Queen Mixxy, so tell me, in terms of the education that you're working with the folks, what have you noticed? Initially, some reluctance when we talk about the plant because of the stereotypical nature of all the stories they've heard. What
Well,
has your approach been? Go ahead.
Well, it's been a more holistic and more of a conversation, and really meeting people where they're at was always the thing that we did as Cultivated Community Foundation, is that
Nice.
we meet people where they're at. We were able to do recently a 2-day NYCHA training with the Smoke Free Division and really talking to them about the medical side, just taking away all the stigmas and what they heard and what they think, because it's like playing telephone with cannabis right now. Just to double back on what Charles is, there actually is some research that is out. Dr. Chang has been doing a lot of research work in this space. In addition, a recent research came out for 2017, 2019 about cannabis use in opioids. That's also out. And Israel obviously is way ahead of all of us. Bringing those information and those facts is sometimes where we break a little bit more barriers. But we're talking about people who have trauma on so many different levels, and this is why I always emphasize the social services works that's going to need to be done
Exactly.
alongside of cannabis. When we're talking about people getting their kids removed for CPS, or people not getting financial aid because they got caught with cannabis in their system, all these different things are all traumas in so many different assets. So it's very important for us to not only hold our legislators, but our state agencies to make sure that they have the right messaging going out and they're not putting out misconceptions. Also in the pharmaceutical world or in the doctor world, getting these getting these doctors and physicians to actually be on board and wanting to do research as well. There's sometimes resistance when I was talking with a lot of seniors of like, I can't find a physician that's even willing to talk to me about cannabis still. So because physicians only base their opinions off of research, but some of them are not even taking the time to look at the research. So I'm always pushing about education on all fronts, and not just necessarily just in cannabis, but in the medical, in the state, in legislative. And this year's a voting year. Surprisingly, people kind of didn't pay attention, but this year is a voting year for our assembly, for our city council people, for our borough president. So making sure that the people that understand what we want as a community is on the forefront and representing us in the best way possible.
Gotcha. Night
I also
Watchman.
think it's important to just say that we would not be where we were if we had not effectively used our vote, because it was a team of our elected officials that made sure that we not only got the legislation passed, but we got something passed that would have a significant equity portion. And this conversation had been going on for years. And I think the mandate from the community, and certainly we want to shout out Harlem Business Alliance and Regina Smith and all the work that's been done. There have been so many people, I couldn't name them all now, but there have been a coalition of people who basically communicated to our elected leaders, do not pass a bad bill. We'll wait. We would rather wait than have a bill pass where we're bypassed. And so, so I give our elected officials credit, and I also think this is an opportunity for us to say the Office of Cannabis Management have taken on an impossible task and just gotten to work on it. So I think they've done a great job with a difficult subject matter to literally incubate an industry here and make sure that it's viable and equitable.
Yes.
It's funny you guys said that, because where I was at yesterday, Christopher Alexander actually touched base on that. And he said that in the structure that they created is really to make sure that big business has to compete with small business. And it's not them overtaking, it's for them to have to compete. So putting the forefront of the small businesses being able to have a chance and build up brands is going to force big business to compete. And I think that was something I took away from listening to him yesterday speak.
Now let's follow on with you on that, Queen Mixxy, because you were the first person I saw to actually put the multi-state operators in the room with legacy operators. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because there have been some developments since you had that meeting.
Yes, there's a lot of development with that. The basis in which doing that was to try to get where we can find alignment, and it wasn't to make MSOs or ROs and legacy all hold hands and be friendly. But when we need bills to be passed and legislation to be passed, there's places of alignment where we can come in as numbers to get our things done. And I think we've seen that when we saw the comments. I think there was over 3,000 comments, not only locally, but from MSOs, ROs, card applicants, potential licensees. So that speaks volumes if a lot of people are coming and commenting and putting their points in the forefront of where pain points are going to be so that it could be addressed, because we're doing something that we never happened. So I always try to give it grace and patience. That's just me.
Uncharted territory.
Well, okay.
We
For
are.
well, for those who may be viewing this for the first time, please tell me you use some acronyms. MSOs, ROs.
So
Go ahead, Queen Mixxy.
MSO is a multi-state
Oh,
operator.
I didn't ask you, Night Watchman.
Well, I was the one who said MSO, so
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
Let
but
me hear.
you can a multi-state operator. These are the large, well-funded cannabis companies that operate in multiple states and
Curaleaf.
have
Gotcha.
millions of dollars behind them. And it has always been the fear that they would come in, and some of them have track records in other states that are not particular. They're, let's say, troublesome. And as you recall, Curtis, we had some legacy operators from Chicago on, and they gave us their experience of some of the same operators who are licensed here in New York as registered organizations. Now, registered organizations means those were the companies that were licensed to do medical cannabis in New York. And what happened was that started, I guess it was passed in 2014, and there were 10 licenses issued. And over time, all of those licenses were acquired by bigger companies out of state. And so it ended up being that those 10 licenses are pretty much all held by multi-million-dollar corporations that are, for all intents and purposes, not based in New York. So so we've always thought that could be an issue in terms of the development of this industry in New York. And we're still watching, because I understand there's been some litigation on their part since Queen Mixxy's meeting. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay.
Queen Mixxy.
Oh, yes, and it's not all the MSOs and ROs that is a part of that litigation. I know it's only a small handful, but there are some MSOs, like we work with Air Wellness. They have been doing a lot of great work with their social impact and doing expungement clinics, doing educational workshops, and that's really how we've been able to navigate in this space. And Etain has been really good in alliance with us as well about giving us informational packets for our seniors and giving us dummy products. And that's mostly, for the most part, who we've been really working with. But this is not new to any other states. Like litigation and lawsuits has always been a thing. We were just coming out of being held up in Brooklyn and Finger Lakes and all these different places by someone that wasn't an MSO. So I think it's just chuck it to the game to me. That especially when you're trying to do something new, there's going to be the most resistance. So I'm just being patient and watching as I go.
Gotcha. Well, I guess one of the things I was also curious about, because they often the thought of, let's say, cannabis legal, suddenly the whole environment of a community is going to be upended. And I know that back in the day, when the illicit market was thriving and flourishing, and this is before a portion of 14th Street became a business improvement district, it was challenging. Have you noticed significant changes in that area there, Brian?
Not really. I mean, like, changes. The whole neighborhood has changed. I've been here 32 years, so the whole neighborhood has changed. But I don't think that the cannabis dispensaries have had any negative impact.
Gotcha.
On the area in terms of really the biggest issue is homelessness. That's really the big issue. You'll see a lot of people just lying on the streets, and it has nothing to do with cannabis. So sometimes the politicians like to choose what they want to make a statement about, or choose something that they perceive causes this. You see, and the whole old story of, well, once you start smoking or using edibles, then you're going to be doing heroin, and you're going to be doing coke, and then you're going to be doing crack. And
reefer madness. I got you.
I know that probably those people never really smoked, because those are all myths. The other side of the coin is which they don't know is a different. When we talk about education, it's a different head. So there are some people that are looking for those types of feelings, but cannabis isn't going to. I never have ever heard of someone that smoke cannabis. But smoking some crack, that'll make you do some crazy things.
Gotcha. What about Arena? To you as well. Now, we certainly do know about that pushback happening on 125th Street.
Yeah.
So, was there any thought of you guys looking for a space on 14th Street, but 13th Street was always in the mix? Tell me about how you arrived at your space.
I mean, we had to turn over every leaf. It's not easy to find a space that qualifies for a legal licensed dispensary in Harlem. I think Harlem probably has more churches than any other community in New York, right? So
Southeast Queens.
Southeast Queens, okay. There's a lot of churches in Harlem, so it's not easy to find space. But I would say that by shutting down the illicit spots and supporting the opening of licensed spots, you're really allowing for a much better clientele to visit the commercial strip, right? So we don't really know who are going into these gray market shops and who they're associated with. But the licensed shops, you know what you're getting, and you can count on having some really amazing folks coming into those spaces, right? You're not going to get riffraff coming into the licensed dispensaries here in New York.
Yeah, one of the things I learned at Queen Mixxy's sit down was that the legacy operators want the shutdown that most of these new shops are not the true legacy operators. They just jumped in and saw an opportunity, and the legacy operators, many who are going through the licensing process, don't want that either, because they earned their right to come out of the shadows, so to speak, and be able to do their craft, legitimately and legally. And having these interlopers come in and mess it up and put product out there that is not good for the environment is interesting.
Yeah, actually, the legacy, what I've heard is that the legacy delivery guys have actually lost over 60% of their business because of these gray market smoke shops that have opened up, and the folks that are running these illegal shops have really no connection to community.
Exactly.
They haven't been involved in the cannabis community. They aren't giving back in any meaningful way. So we're all in favor and support of helping to uplift legacy operators. We actually we hire legacy operators. We try to do cross marketing with legacy folks. And as you mentioned, Bob, they are actually incredibly supportive of shutting down these illegal smoke shops, because it's also hurting them.
And also the gray market, I guess those smoke shops are messing up the perception of how the legal market should be. because
Mhm.
like in for instance, I don't know, just more recently there was a shooting at one of the smoke shops in Harlem this past Sunday, and
Yeah.
that same
Wow.
that same smoke shop is actually that same location a few years ago when there was the K2 epidemic. They were selling K2. So I've noticed just living out here, certain bodegas in certain areas, they don't care. Like it's just a profit. They're appropriating off of the community. They've never contributed to it. I mean, if you even go back to Halloween, it's issues with them even giving out free candy type of stuff though. So
Mhm.
this is literally a money grab. And when we think as a community, and I'm really trying to get Harlem to understand that if 40% is going to be going to these communities impacted, that means that we are going to be having revenues coming in. And but the way that that money's coming in is through the tax revenues of cannabis. So these gray market areas are, I mean, these gray market shops, they're not paying taxes on it. So they're not doing their part to it. As well as you all know too, even when it comes to the applications and these licenses, there's social equity impact type of plans that are involved in it. So they want to see what you're going to be doing and contributing to the community. They're not a part of those conversations, as it was mentioned earlier, and I feel like they have no intention on it. So I think as a community, we need to really start looking at some of these businesses that are being placed in here and saying, okay, do they have our best interest, and looking at the history, and standing up and supporting that, shutting a lot of these down.
Yeah, not only that, but this amazing program that New York has drafted, the most progressive
Yeah,
legislation in the country, is not going to succeed unless we shut down these illegal smoke
of
shops,
course.
right? So these current card licensees, these justice involved individuals, people with cannabis convictions who are holding licenses, are not going to be able to open a successful business if the illegal smoke shops are not shut down.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, on the workforce development issue, I know that there's a lot of things going on in terms of different universities that are developing curriculum, and so are you, Arena? Are you interacting with any entities in terms of supplying you people who have been pre-trained before they get to you, or?
Yeah, we were doing some work with NYU. I think I mentioned previously Terrence Coffey, who actually is a graduate of the Doe Fund. He's working on developing a curriculum right now. I think the curriculum has actually been accredited by Cornell University. It's the Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative, and he's an adjunct at NYU, and he's developing a curriculum for formerly incarcerated individuals who work in the legal cannabis space. And I know that we're also doing some. One of our head of retail is actually going to be teaching some courses at NYU, which is a kind of a program for individuals, like a non-degree program to help individuals get into the cannabis space as well. I know there's I think it's LMI has an incredible cannabis program. Kingsborough Community College has an excellent program we're trying to get involved in. So yeah, we're working with a number of different programs to try to get as many people of color, specifically from communities targeted by the war on drugs, into the legal cannabis space and help, to give them opportunities in this billion-dollar market.
And also, I believe Manhattan Educational Opportunity Center is also doing some workforce initiatives in cannabis. So I can connect you with their executive director as well, because one of
That'd be
the
great.
great things that we're seeing is that we're finally seeing an ecosystem develop. And what's really important, and what we loved seeing in your shop, is seeing young people starting off a career and learning something, a trade or a skill that is going to basically feed them for some time to come.
Yeah. Giving them exposure to a new industry will give them opportunities and more senior positions going forward, right? Being at the forefront will put them in a really amazing position. And so we do ongoing technical assistance and kind of education with our bud tenders, and we actually reimburse them and give them credits to go to cannabis events throughout the city, and to network with cannabis professionals across the country. So we encourage their professional growth.
Bob, can I just add one thing to that too?
Absolutely.
Just to let you know, so last night we for our community board 10 economic development committee that's chaired by Dr. Cheryl Smith, we actually had the Department of Labor come on. So there's a guy, Daniel Kaufman, and there's a group actually with the DOL. I think that's the Cannabis Employment and Education Development, SEED, where they're focusing on it's actually a new a new unit in DOL, but they've been pushing,
Nice.
like I said, workforce development. You can even, and for instance, even with the travel agency, you guys can actually put up job postings. You can utilize them as well. So I'll make sure I share that information with you guys. But we had them on, and we're but they just started a unit in DOL. But I think as we see this market kind of grow and mature, we'll start to see more city agencies getting involved in it.
So
I
Charles,
just want to piggyback. I just want
um,
to piggyback off of what Charles with
sure.
the C program. C program has actually been for a while, and I've actually been partnered with them. And they actually worked with me to do Know Your Rights youth career day with Cornell, and where we actually did learn what the DOL is in general. And it was really good and amazing to have that with the youth. And even the questions, what I sometimes worry about is always not going a little younger and having the conversation of career paths, whether it's you being a biochemist, whether you be an attorney in this space. Because if we're going to really build an ecosystem, it can't usually start at 21 because most interests to me are already set. But also, I've also noticed that some of these institutions still have the stigmas and still are like hidden with their program. So I really do try to incorporate these programs and these peak interests in the younger to start really building out the workforce. And Seed has been a great partner. Cornell has been a great partner in doing those information, because there's so much other things you need to know, like how to read a paycheck, financial literacy, what's your rights in these spaces, what's a union. Those educations also need to be at the forefront when we're having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Are you? Is there anywhere you're not? I mean, Queen Mixxy is everything, everywhere, all at once.
I mean, for me, I'm more looking at what we're going to need going forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some people are like, well, what is she working on? I'm looking at the things that we're anticipating to have a problem. If we're going to really build out workforce and really have workforce, starting it at 22, 23 is a little hard. This is why summer youth is at 14, to start building up workforce, start building up people wanting to be in the workforce, figuring out career paths. I'm very big on professional development and professional pathways for people so they can envision those things. But the peak of the interest is always in the younger. So if you have someone that is interested in tech and finding out they could work for a software company like Charles and know that there's an opportunity, I think that's where we're going to have a really robust workforce, when we start integrating those things with the intergenerational conversations.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? I got to say, for all the listening audience and watching, as you know, I was just sent off to purgatory for a minute. Okay.
Actually, no one knew. Oh. You just gave yourself up.
I gave it up. Okay. well, you know what? One thing, and I just wondered whether or not I may have missed something here. One of the things I would just want to ask, and this is for Arena. I have to know, knowing that there's the federal ban on stuff in terms of doing business. How is money able to circulate at your level? Is it are there what is that? I was going to say credit unions. What in terms of folks being able to actually let's say if they thought about going into the cannabis space, how could it be financed?
Oh, how could it be financed? That's a tough
another
question.
show.
I thought you were going to ask about how you can open up a bank account. I mean, I think banking is becoming easier. Getting insurance is becoming easier.
Okay.
Working with state chartered banks, once you have financing, is easier. But securing financing is incredibly hard. In New York State, they made it difficult and made it impossible to receive money from cannabis investors who have also invested in cultivation operations or brands. If you're a dispensary, you can only take money from investors that have invested in other dispensaries, right? Wow. So they're trying to create this model similar to the liquor store, right? They don't want there to be a Budweiser liquor store in New York City. So it's very, very difficult. So you really have to find funding almost from virgin cannabis investors folks who have not invested in cannabis before, which really requires quite a bit of education and hand holding, and is not easy to do. And as you all know, Black folks don't really have access to those types of individuals typically. I mean, the wealth that we have in our community is, I think, 1/10 or less than 1/10 than it is in white communities. And access to those individuals is not easy, but the cannabis industry does require quite a bit of capital. And so, whatever, I'm looking forward to hearing more about some funds that are helping to redirect funding to Black-owned cannabis companies, because nationwide, only 2% of cannabis companies are Black-owned.
Wow.
And as you all know, there's more than 40,000 people of color, Black, Latino primarily, in jail still for cannabis-related crimes, whereas there's, these white guys making billions of dollars.
With a B.
So it's incredibly disheartening. And there's still a lot of work that has to be done to help finance.
Raina, you should make sure that you come to our cannabis forum on the 29th, because we're literally, the title is "Where's the Money?" But
I would love to.
There's just I understand why they had the TPI framework. That's essentially what she was referring to, the true party of interest framework. Because if you look at other jurisdictions, they've taken advantage of applicants and things of that nature when it comes to just the financing piece and really targeting them. So I get that part of why they were doing it, but yeah, it's just in general, that's outside of the state, the access to capital for Black businesses is an all-time low period, regardless of the sector that you're focusing on. So we really do need to mobilize it. But I do believe that if we start having conversations, and Archer, I know we mentioned this this week when we were talking about the buying power that we have as Blacks. I think that we need to now start focusing on how we can make a symbiotic relationship within our community and make sure that that money is circulating through, because we do have the dollars. But I think that right now they're trying to make us to a spending group, as opposed to us really getting our dollars together collectively and starting to do stuff. But with the money's there, because there's no way you can have almost $1 trillion buying power, and then we have an issue with access to capital. That means we have an issue with how we're mobilizing ourselves and putting our money together.
Absolutely.
I have a consensus on that, because I'm in Southeast Queens, where a lot of immigrants and Black families own property here. So I'm in an area where that is an actual thing. I had a physician that passed away, and he owned half the block. That's up for sale. And from a Black family, storefronts, apartments, restaurants, physician location, he owned half the block. But the stigmas are still there, and that's why I'm always pushing like education, because we spend the most in everywhere, in every asset, in every industry. We are the ones that have the biggest buying power, and that's so important for us to start using it so that we can support our own businesses coming, and even more so getting us actively in the supply chain, because that's another controlling partner of where we don't succeed also, is making sure that the supply chain is equitable, so that we're not getting in these compromising positions, or being able to really push our brands and being in stores all over.
Absolutely. And Night Watchman, I'm looking at the clock, so I guess we might have to go our whirlwind tour around.
Yes, give everyone a last final word. Absolutely.
Well, you know what, Brian, being that you are the one serious performer in this group, we'll need to know what's upcoming for you, man.
Oh, for me, I will be at. I'm in the East Village, so there's a place called the Watering Hole, 68 2nd Avenue, and there's an open mic, but I'm the featured artist. Now I'll be there on the 25th, and then I have a larger venue at a place called Sour Mouse, which is interesting, and it's free, by the way.
Okay.
Free. And Sour Mouse is on the 30th. I sing jazz standards. I have a channel on YouTube for those that like the Sammy Davis and that sort of thing. And my channel is Lord Brian Alejandro, because I actually am a lord from England. So I just thought I'd
put it in there. Hell yeah, go for it. Very nice, very nice. Well, Arena, do tell what's happening for 420. Anything special?
We are sponsoring a number of events. Actually, there's an event at the new THC Museum on Canal and Broadway that we're helping to sponsor. Honeysuckle is actually organizing the event. Erykah Badu is scheduled to perform, and Ice Spice is scheduled to perform, so that'll be a fun one. We also have partnered with Rage and Release, which is an incredible organization that helps to break the stigma around wellness and cannabis. So it's thousands of athletes who are avid cannabis smokers. And just, they're all about health and wellness. And so they're starting off a big bike race at our dispensary on 420 as well.
Wow.
There's so many other events that we're involved with, but come visit us. We're on 13th Street between Broadway and University in our interim pop-up space. And we're building out our permanent space in the corner of 13th and Broadway right now. And we will be launching with delivery soon. So make sure you go on our website, sign up for the travel club, so you can get updates when we do launch our delivery program, which will be very, very soon.
We want delivery. We want delivery.
I'm happy to bring you a care package anytime, Curtis. Just for you. In the meantime.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So, Queen Mixxy, the hardest working woman in the space, do tell what's happening.
So for 18, I will be with Community Board 10, Education and Library Committee. We are going to be doing a cannabis forum, targeting parents and doing a lot of educational work. 420, I also will be doing another cannabis forum with CEC 29 in Southeast Queens. You can sign up, it's all free. And there's just so much cannabis stuff, I can't even come in. And I will be April 24th, hopefully, at another school in Harlem. So we'll stay tuned about that and doing some more educational works with it. I appreciate working with, Community Board 10. It's been really great working with Charles and pushing this conversation, and I will definitely be a part of those other things that Charles will be talking about.
Yes, for sure.
Love it. So Night Watchman, we actually had our dream has been realized. We got the Honorable Charles Johnson. Charles, what you got going on? Talk to us.
I mean, man, this is so much. Just real quick, because I got to do the plug for it. Saturday, September 29th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., we're going to have the second annual Higher Learning Cannabis Forum. The topic is Where's the Money for Cannabis? We're partnering with Marcus Meets Malcolm, but also with Harlem Business Alliance. And also I need to give a shout out to CUNY's Harlem Health Initiative. Tamisha Hicks, because we've been working with the Cannabis Capstone with them. And Deborah Levine. Levine. Yes. I mean, we've done a store mapping too. So I mean, we're in the trenches on it. So shout out to them. But yeah, that's going to be something on April 29th. And like I said, there's so much stuff, man. You guys got to bring me on next time so I can talk about the tech stuff, man. But yeah, we're looking forward to everything that's going on.
Well, Night Watchman, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, he will be back.
He'll be back.
I'll be back.
Get to the chopper.
So, Night Watchman, take us home, buddy.
Well, I just want to remind people that when they purchase from a licensed store, they're supporting the community. They're supporting funds going back. So if you want to go down to Union Square Travel Agency for 420, I'm sure Arena will not be at the front door, but there'll be some young and very well knowledgeable people there to help you out. Other than that,
and polite. I mean, just beautifully polite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also the Why Buy Legal campaign launched yesterday. So,
nice.
Yes, that was another thing that you end up missing, Arena.
Amazing.
Why Buy Legal campaign launched yesterday, and it'll be activated everywhere starting Tuesday of next week. So you're just going to see why we need to buy legal so we can start pushing even the media outlets way of buying legal.
Beautiful.
I love it.
All right. Beautiful thing. You've been listening to Soul Lounge Prime Time on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Also live streaming every Monday night on YouTube and Facebook. And you can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Ask Alexa to play your the latest Soul Lounge Prime Time podcast. Ask Siri. Ask all those esteemed fake AI bot women.
Oh man,
we love them.
But this has been a great show, y'all.
Great show.
Yes.
And
Thank you all.
and they'll all be back.
Yeah. Yes. All right, y'all.
Absolutely.
Have a good one, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take it easy. Thank
Yes.
you.
All right.
Thanks so much, all.
Good night.
You're
Good night.